Is there a better song that you think would have, been better for a single?
Yes. Oh my God. This song, I mean, The Boy Is Mine. How was that just not the single? That, to me,
Yes.
that could have been a hit song.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. Everyone watching on YouTube, we're on our way to 5,000. Make sure you like this video, share it with your people, leave us a comment, and of course, subscribe. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather. And we are here with His Royal Highness in the Album Mode colors, a.k.a. the Bunny King Grant.
Welcome back, people. It's Album Mode. This time we're reviewing Ariana Grande. We're doing Eternal Sunshine. That's why I'm wearing the sunglasses.
Mm-hmm.
We reviewed Ariana Grande at the very beginning of Album Mode's life.
That's correct.
That was back in 2020, where she had dropped Positions.
Mm-hmm.
And for everybody that is listening, that was also the first time one of our reviews got taken down.
Oh, I forgot about that.
You forgot about it. Yeah. That was the first time any of our reviews got taken down. And that was also like a very clear moment for us. We're like, oh, so like the label, like somebody actually sees what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was at the very beginning. I think that was like November 2020, and we had started.
We were probably like 10 episodes in.
Yeah, we're like 10 episodes in. So it was getting enough visibility. And when I was looking at the metrics when it first came out, I think it was like our first ever like over 1,000. It was going 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. It was going like crazy at the very beginning. So this is our follow-up basically to
follow up to the follow-up.
Yeah, to one of our first ever reviews. And Ariana Grande, Eternal Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
What were you feeling coming into this album?
It's probably the least excited I've ever been for an Ariana Grande album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't really down with the singles too much. I would say this has been less of a push from her team in terms of, promoting an album. So I think, we know what she's capable of for sure. But personally, I was like, I didn't have that same hype that I've had before.
Yeah, me too. I think that the single misled me.
Yep.
Into thinking what this entire album was gonna sound like, because it was Yes and, which is basically like a dance synth pop single, and I was like,
Well, so I have that in my notes here at the top. So let's get right there. What did you think of Yes and as a single? Because she has had some huge singles.
Yeah.
And so usually with Ariana Grande, a huge single comes, we're like, okay, we know what this is about. We can kind of see where this is headed. This didn't have that vibe to me. Were you disappointed in this single?
Yeah, mostly because it seems almost like campy when I listen to it. Like, it's like basically made for the gym, made for like a workout gym environment.
Sure.
If you're doing like your Taibo, you're doing your Zumba, that type of vibe.
This is made for a group class.
Yeah.
That's it. Because if you're listening in the gym on your ones, I feel like you're going to have a hard workout. So I think this is made for, a group class of elderlies.
Yeah, exactly. And I am not one of those people. I mean, obviously I can appreciate, music that is not made for my demographic, whatever. But it just seemed too on the nose. It was so obviously like, this is for the gym.
Yeah.
And I feel as though that could play in like a GTA gym or a real life gym.
Oh my God,
and if your music is playing in a situation in GTA, that's because GTA is making fun of how obvious it is to be in that space.
Yes.
And that is what I was getting from Yes and. Is it a bad song? No, but it's so by the numbers, like so brutally by the numbers that I was not a fan of it. I'm not going to be honest with you.
I think what I want to start with this review is we need to find a name for this kind of artist, this genre. This album, and spoiler, it really reminds me of Harry Styles' last project.
Oh, really?
And not in the sound, of course. Harry Styles was not, giving you the Roomba music. But these are not bad songs. They may not excite you, They may not have you feel anything, but they're not bad songs. Has a level of competence enough, whether it's the producers, her vocally, where all the songs will be decent.
Yeah.
And we need to have a name for that kind of artist, because I think a lot of times when we review an album, there's sometimes we're like, that song is just garbage.
Yeah.
You know, that does happen if you know the podcast. Definitely happens. But there's an album like this one where I feel like there aren't as many moments where you're like, whew, that's horrible. And that, there's a skill to that of having kind of just a base level of competence as an artist. But we need a name for that. Anything come to mind, suggestion for the artists who they're at a point where they're not going to make bad music.
Yeah.
But is necessarily good music. Post Malone's last album fits into this as well. So do you have a name for that kind of artist, that kind of sound? Because we have a few, and it's a theme. These are like bigger pop artists who are doing this, where it's like, okay, these are not bad songs, but they're not good songs.
Yeah.
So what are we calling that?
I think it's just like competent. Like these people are just extremely competent, where there's never going to be a time where, like we were talking about, I don't know, like maybe like The Weeknd or Drake, and we're like, they're probably never ever gonna drop like a bad song, but it's like jumping up to good is like an effort.
Yes.
And it also takes risk, right? You gotta risk it to make a good track. And I think that Ariana Grande, with Yes and specifically, was like zero risk, like none whatsoever. Like zero.
Is there a better song that you think would have, been better for a single?
Yes. Oh my God. This song, I mean, The Boy Is Mine. How was that just not the single? That, to me,
yes,
that could have been a hit song.
There's still time.
That could have been a hit song if basically it's like a West Coast, like I think we mentioned this on the previous review. It's like a West Coast 2010s type of hip hop beat, right? It's not trap, but it's got this like groove to it, like almost like a G-funk groove to it, where I was like, holy shit, where is the feature? I'm like,
well, you want to hear someone rap on that?
To me, this song could have been a hit song. I'm like, where's the Vince Staples feature?
This guy said Vince Staples.
Where is the Vince Staples feature? Because Ariana Grande is already a hitmaker, right? So she doesn't need another superstar to be on her.
Anybody would have made a hit with it. You're right.
But she is already a star pop like artist, right? She doesn't need somebody else to like make the song for her. So if she just had Vince Staples, I think Vince Staples fits perfectly in that scenario. Like literally perfectly. I think on his previous albums, Vince Staples, the
Ramona Park,
yeah, he has a song like this already.
Yeah,
right. I think it's Fade.
This is his pocket for sure.
So I'm like, why the fuck isn't he on this song? It's not like she's not versed. It's not like she's not used to having rappers like be a part of her music, right? Even Pop Smoke made a song with her, vocals being sampled. So I'm like, where is the rapper on that track? That could have been a hit song, legit.
I'm going to refer to the prior text that you said of this song, being for the gym, and not just the gym, but this is for a group workout class of older people.
You think so?
I think this whole album is that. I think that's kind of the tone of the project. And I think The Boy Is Mine to me is like one of the clear standouts and is different in that way. But I think that if you're making an album for that group of people, you're not throwing a rapper on it, And there's a reason why this thing has no features. Like I think that's like all intentional in a sense where we've had enough time with the blacks.
But it's black music though.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that because I think production-wise, that's where a lot of her production has clearly changed from her previous work.
Right.
I think this is the most different in production than her last work because to me, she's always been in that pop R&B space that really became popular in the early 2000s. And this album is probably less of that than any album she's ever had. And even the songs that are that, a lot of them lean more into the pop side than they do. And The Boy Is Mine to me is the one that is probably the most actually leaning R&B than any of the ones that feel like they have kind of a mix. Eternal Sunshine is one that I have these two together, Eternal Sunshine, The Boy Is Mine. They feel they're made in the same session. And Eternal Sunshine is more like what new R&B sounds like, where it's basically a hip hop song and those hi-hats are just, doing their thing. And then The Boy Is Mine sounds like '06 to '09. You know, Neo could have wrote it. The Dream did the reference. Like that's what it sounds like to me. So I think there's times on here where we're like, okay, we get it. You're still in this kind of in between sound, but I still think that when she does more of the R&B hip hop stuff, that's a better vibe for her.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, but I still like Eternal Sunshine. I like Eternal Sunshine. I think that the ability, I do think it's like what you said, it's like newer R&B. And I like there's like an attention to detail when she sings like, I don't want you to play me like Atari, right? And it gets the Atari sound effects in the background. I think that's like
that's a pretty cool part of it.
Yeah.
I give it credit. I give it credit.
So it's got that. I think that any song that has like those climbing strings in the background,
that's her thing.
That's her. I don't know if that's signature.
Whatever, it's right there.
Yeah,
it's
borderline signature. But those songs with the climbing strings in the background, I think, are like those really work for her. You know, even like on Positions, even has that.
Yeah, a ton of that.
Yeah, a ton of that on Positions.
I think the difference with her to me on this project is that Eternal Sunshine is not a bad song at all. It's like almost the exact kind of competent song to me, what we're talking about. But why would you listen to Eternal Sunshine instead of the other 100 new R&B songs that exist? You know, in reality, it's like a mid version of, you know, the sound that everyone is doing, you know? And so if this is what you like and you want to hear a woman sing over, you know, this new R&B sound, Summer Walker got a whole album for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to hear this new sound, Lucky Day got a whole album for you. And so to me, that's my main issue is that it feels very cookie cutter. You know, it feels kind of type beat-ish. Of like, okay.
Speak about type beat. There's some type beats going on.
There's a lot of type beat. I
love that song.
You love that song.
I think I like it because of her vocalization. I think I like most of the songs because of her vocals. I think she's an excellent vocalist.
This is where I think we're going to disagree because I feel like her vocals are still top tier. That's never in question, but the production on this project to me kind of ruined some of her vocals. Like I feel like these songs could have been way better and you're just kind of wasting this great vocal performance. And Bye is like the pop Silk Sonic version.
Yes, it is.
Of Thank You Next.
Yes, it is.
Like 100%. And again, it's like it's the watered down version. And I think that I said this on Positions as well. Her voice is so good, she could sing on anything. And I think her choosing this kind of R&B, pop, hip-hop sound for most of her career has been a good choice.
Yeah.
Like the proof is in the pudding. It has been a good choice. But I think when she does stuff like the Silk Sonic-esque thing on Bye, it's like it's not as good as their version of it. And it's not even like a proper version of it in a sense. Like it feels like the Kids Bop version of a Silk Sonic. You know when they have someone playing half the chords, none of the stacks. Like that's what Bye feels like to me. And I kind of felt that Bye as basically the intro to the album was a crazy choice.
Didn't I feel like it's almost like a Lizzo song too?
Like Lizzo too.
Yeah, Lizzo and like Bruno Mars. It's in that zone. I think the part that really makes it for me on that song is on the hook where she's like, bye bye. I love that part. That part makes the entire song for me. But I get exactly what you're talking about where let's say there is a tight beatness to a lot of the songs. Aaliyah type beat.
Yes.
Aaliyah type beat is big on this album where it's a true story. Also, I want to mention Ariana Grande actually produces like all of her shit, right? She's like very, very much into producing all of her stuff. She punches in her own stuff. Like she does pretty much everything on her own. She kind of has other people. She's kind of like, it's closer to like a Kanye West situation where it's like she is like the major person. Like she's in every producer credit. Yeah. And then other people kind of join in and be like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did this? You know what I mean?
It's an actual joint collaboration.
Yeah. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, true story. I think this is basically a Timbaland Aaliyah type beat.
I have literally written in my notes 90s Missy multiplied by 2000s Tim.
Yeah, it's basically like I think Aaliyah that drum pattern that right, is like basically like textbook Aaliyah's.
Mm-hmm.
That'll sound better in the audio version, people. But
You're close.
yeah, but I think that that's hot right now. That Aaliyah sound is hot right now because there's like the Brent Faiyaz album had that,
Yeah.
and then if you're a New Jeans fan, you're listening to Erica DeCassier, and her album
Wow.
was filled with Aaliyah's influence songs.
Yeah.
Right, and now this album, it's this song, and there's another song that has the Aaliyah influences on it, where I'm like, oh, Aaliyah is like, it's making the rounds again right now.
Yeah,
I guess maybe it's like a throwback to like late 90s, early 2000s.
That's back, yeah.
Right, where now that's like 20 years in the past. So like, oh, it's starting to come back around.
I also think it is the resurgence of the two people that I named. Like Timbaland is having kind of his resurgence and actually producing for a bunch of people again. Having his show, like being more in the limelight, and Missy as well. Like, we did an episode of her getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
it's like the group from that 90s 2000s era, like who kind of makes it to the next era is always dubious. Like it's almost it's almost no rhyme or reason. No, and that's true. It's like we haven't heard as many people talk about I'm trying to be the new Nelly. When we were there, Nelly was
it,
the guy. You know, and you thought to yourself, there's going to be a lot of guys trying to be Nelly.
Not really.
Not at all. And so for these two to kind of have this second wave of influence, because I would say like Ariana Grande is around our age, like she probably remembers, but some like people in New Jeans, like I don't think they weren't there. So even though I think that it's very much cookie cutter on True Story, I like to see the influence.
There's also on
back.
Don't Want to Break Up Again is the other song that has that, and again it's that it's like that. Right, and then there's also that like the kicks underneath it. Yeah, is really what creates that Aaliyah. I just call it the Aaliyah effect because I'm like, when I listen to it, I'm like, this is just like the Aaliyah albums. But I think that by adoption of Aaliyah, I think first of all, Aaliyah's influence is actually, like Drake and The Weeknd are like, I love Aaliyah's music.
Yeah. Everyone.
Everybody is like, I love Aaliyah's music, but I think this is like really the first times where I'm like, it's obvious, right? Those three albums that I was talking about, where I'm like, it's really, 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 really obvious now.
It's interesting you're giving that credit to Aaliyah because I don't know if the artist would. I think Timbaland.
It's Timbaland, yeah.
No, I think,
but it's Aaliyah's music. Like when you listen to her albums.
Well, Timbaland has worked with a bunch of artists, and so I think like this is kind of the influence of when a producer does that. You think of the producers who their whole career is with one person. Someone like 40 and Drake. Like most of the 40 songs are Drake songs. Yeah. And someone like Timbaland who had his whole run working with the Nelly Furtados and the Timberlakes of the world, when it's like, that kind of raises the reach of your music where that's probably part of what is having the influence so big is like, maybe they don't know all of the Aaliyah songs, but they maybe know the Timberlake songs or something like that. So I love to see the influence actually kind of make the rounds again. Supernatural is my last thing I'll talk about in terms of production. Okay. That to me is like my favorite kind of production on this project. From her, it really reminds me of Majid Jordan.
Of who?
Majid Jordan.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Those light synths, a very 80s influence. I feel like. I think she's good on that sound. Like that.
It reminds me of Carly Rae Jepsen.
Carly Rae Jepsen too.
Yeah. So she's tapping into the Canadian influences.
Yeah. Tapping into the Canadian influences. I think too, it's like, I think she sounds good on that production. I felt that production works on this project, but this project is way more kind of upbeat. Just all across the board. No matter what kind of style she's borrowing, she's doing an upbeat version of it. It's like she's taking some upbeat styles, like a Silk Sonic. Or like a Majid Jordan, but it is like, okay, I'm gonna do the upbeat version of this every time. So that's the only thing I feel like I don't always resonate with. Like I don't need her on these dancey bops. That's not it for me. I feel like again when she does the more actual, more traditional R&B pop sound, where it's like faster than a ballad, but not necessarily a dance song. She is absolute murder in that area to me. Yeah, so this album being all upbeat is like, it's like the person who can shoot threes. Well, it's like it's great that you made 10 mid-rangers, but now you only have 20 points instead of 30 points, you know? So
Yeah, I agree. I think that the more up tempo it gets, the less recognizable she becomes.
yeah.
So I think her vocal flexion, like so many things that she can do with her voice, when it's really fast, it kind of constricts the amount of things that she can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you could think of like a song like Ordinary Things, where it feels like she is like every range, like the full range of her voice. She's doubling her voice, right? She's like, there's like echoes in the background. Like there's a lot of different tools because she is such an excellent singer. Basically every tool in the toolbox that you try to like fix people, she actually just uses it to like make it better and like stretch things in different ways. So I do agree with you. When it's like super fast, it doesn't really, it just constricts her. I think it's probably the best way to describe it.
Yes.
I think that there's maybe like one other thing I want to mention when it came to production was, we mentioned it because we were talking about Supernatural. I think that, my last thing is, I guess we usually mention this at the end, but the cohesion is missing. Like, that's just not there.
Because I had to mention it right now. It's just not.
It's just not what is the connective tissue? I think the connective tissue production-wise is broken. Because there's songs like a song like We Can't Be Friends. Okay, it's kind of like upbeat, a little weekendy, Songs on this are a little bit weekendy-ish as well.
Petit peu.
Right? And then she got like I Wish I Hated You, which is like completely slowed down, completely like disassociated from like if you try to convince somebody that like Boy Bye and Imperfect for You were on the same album, it would be a tough sell.
Yeah, like there's no way.
It would be a tough sell, right? So I think that there's a little bit of issue with that where it's like there's so many different sounds where we got like the upbeat pop and then we got like the downbeat and then we got like the song that I mentioned that's like almost like a hip hop song, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this guitar singer-songwriter Imperfect for You, which I think is like like songwriting wise, I think that's probably the best song. But when it comes to the connection between the rest of the tracks, I'm like, that shit is missing. That shit is not there.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's why I brought up that thing at the beginning about what are we calling these competent artists? Because that is the reason why this album even sounds the way it does, is because there's kind of a competency level for every song.
Yeah.
You know, a song, album this disconnected in terms of being cohesive, it would sound a lot different if it didn't have such a high level of competency in all these songs. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Don't Want to Break Up Again is my only song for lyrics.
Wow.
I'm gonna do the chorus and then I'm gonna do the verse.
Okay.
But I have never done this on this podcast. I'm gonna read verbatim the Genius annotation because I think it is mostly correct, and I think it encapsulates a lot of what makes Ariana Grande. And I mean lyrically, Okay, so the chorus says, I don't want to fuck with your head. It's breaking my heart to keep breaking yours again. This situationship has to end, but I just can't refuse. I don't want to break up again. That's pretty straightforward. We've talked a lot about block spinning on this on this podcast. This is block spin adjacent.
Yeah.
But the Genius annotation, and let me give credit to the contributor because Gabe Presley. So Gabe Presley, this is
shout out to you. This is for you.
All you right here. Like many women before Ariana, she's just looking for love. Ariana has had many relationships and or flings over many years, but unfortunately, they don't seem to work out. Ariana may be talking about an actual conversation she had with one of her partners when she says, I don't want to break up again. She expresses vulnerability about not wanting to leave because she loves them, even though it's bad for her, or both of them. Hence why she says, but I just can't refuse. It may also allude to sex. She just doesn't want more rumors about her love life spread around. I think that the word situationship was probably a word that you would never see in a song 20 years ago, 30 years ago, wasn't even a word that in our lexicon.
Mhm.
I'm sure it was happening, but it was not a phrase that was used. That's definitely something from our time, our age group. Ariana Grande is actually around our age.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a big part of, she speaks to that group of women, of that age group, older than Olivia Rodrigo fans.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say even probably a bit younger than the Miley Cyrus fans a little bit.
Yeah, I do. Even though that they're
Around the same age.
Yeah, they're around the same age. But I think just her celebrity for
Yes.
whatever reason. I mean maybe they were even at Disney at the same time. But I just
Yeah.
for whatever reason, Ariana Grande, her celebrity, like the people that she's associated with,
Mm-hmm.
she is, I would say, lucky enough to be associated with hip hop.
Yes.
And like the people that we liked in hip hop, and she wasn't like, let's say, abusing her relationship to hip hop.
She saw the Miley Cyrus blueprint and said, "No, thank you."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna do it differently. So I thought that part was interesting because this whole idea of a situationship and we're just running in circles. Someone in Ariana Grande's position going through the same thing as the rest of y'all. I thought that was pretty cool to put that in there. And I think that's a lot of this project is like, it's from that lens of like the situationship runs parallel to the relationships.
Okay.
I think that in the past with songwriting, it was very much, this is the only girl I've ever wanted. And, and even if the song is overtly sexual and it's like, I want to have sex with this woman, that's still the same tone of, it's her that I want and I'm chasing her down. And, a lot of this album and even her music is like, nah, there's a lot of things going on, man. Like, someone's hollering at me here. I got DMs over here. And the second part, which is the verse I'm about to talk about, this is now kind of like the next part of that thinking, which I think is also very representative of the times. In verse 2, she says, I made it so easy, spent so much on therapy, blamed my own codependency, but you didn't even try. When you finally did, it was at the wrong time. Won't abandon me again for you and I. There's some accountability there. and I appreciate that. I made it so easy, spent so much on therapy, blamed my own codependency. This part is like, you cannot see Luther Vandross singing about this. The idea of breaking yourself away from a situationship, improving yourself as a person to be like, okay, I'm strong enough to say no. Like, where were the songs about this back in the day? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't really picture that even being a topic at all. So when I think about the song that, the title of the song, the idea of the song, Don't Want to Break Up Again, that sounds kind of okay, people, on and off relationship.
Yep.
That already is like, there's no way that Whitney Houston is having a song like, as much as Whitney Houston has songs that were definitely about different things, we won't get it twisted, but this idea of the situationship I have to break free from, and it's part of my growth, and I work so hard on this, is like such a new concept. And I'm like, Ariana Grande for a lot of people represents kind of this like new wave, new idea, new thinking. And as much as I have problems about this project, lyrically, I think she's still where she's always been, always kind of being the voice of this group of people. And she does that again on this project. Yeah,
I think that she really is I do think she is tapping into a different emotion than the previous albums. I think this is like, there's more regret. There's like a regret, but also like a happiness that it happened, sadness that it's over, but also accepting that it needs to be over.
But are you getting an apology?
No.
Okay.
Well, sort of, but not fully.
You're getting a sort of apology.
Yeah, sort of, because I think like here's on Imperfect for You, I think is the best written song, because she like actually is like, there's like a storytelling aspect to it. Shout out to Ariana Grande telling stories. Bust out the guitar, all of us. Anytime an artist busts out just like the guitar by itself, they're like, here come guys, everybody gather around.
Gather around. It's about to get deep.
So in Imperfect for You, I think that she really balances the verses, pre-chorus and chorus, like they all just like click into each other, right? So she's like, verse 2, she's like, let's go tonight because there's just a few seconds left till tomorrow. We have all we need. Let's leave our baggage and wine at the table. How could we know that this was a happy disaster? I'm glad we crashed and burned. I'll never forget when you told me, you said I'm usually then this is the chorus, fucked up, anxious, too much, but I'll love you like you need me to, imperfect for you, messy, completely distressed, but I'm not like that since I met you. That's heartfelt, bro. She hit me in the feels.
She got you that one, eh?
She hit me in the feels. You know, I like the idea of like this, that how could we know that this was a happy disaster? This is what I was talking about, where she was like, you know, there's regret, but there's also happiness that it happened, but also realization that it needs to be over. And then, are we apologizing? Maybe. I don't know. But I think that, but the part that I just read to you, it sounds like it was like a unique part in the song. That was actually the verse into the pre-chorus into the chorus. So like
that's the meat of the song.
Yeah. So that gets that pre-chorus and chorus like sticks. First of all, it sounds really good. It sounds better when it's sung, obviously, than when it's spoken. But it clicks together well with the other verses. Like all the other verses have a lead in like that, right? So the storytelling is good. Good storytelling from Ariana Grande.
Yes.
Bust out the, like I said, she busts out the guitar, gather around children, have a story to tell.
We've seen that move before.
So I think that, you know, that's one of the standouts to me. I think it's probably the weakest in production-wise, though, considering everything else that happens. But I think that it's good to see that she's able to do stuff like that, right? Like the storytelling could come out. We're not just making pop songs 24/7.
My question really is, what direction is she heading in? I think this project, production-wise, from her last, even though we're talking about lyrics, lyrically, there's some improvement. We're not getting an apology yet, but this is like in the group chat, you kind of tell the girls, you know what? I was kind of mean to him. You know, that's what this is. He's not getting an apology, but in the group chat, you know, you kind of told the girls, okay, you know, that was on me. But from a sonic standpoint, this is the most kind of diverging away from what she's done. And there's a bunch of kind of like, this like choose your adventure. Talk about the future of Ariana Grande. And, you know, there's Imperfect for You, which I can't see 11 of those on an album. Like, I don't think that's really happening. There's a song like Bye, which is like, I don't see that as the choice either.
Yeah.
So
too Lizzo-ish for her.
I agree. So what do you think is like, out of all these different stabs, what is the one that we're really headed towards? Because I think the best songs still are, you know, How the Boy's Mine, True Story.
Supernatural is good.
Supernatural is different and ends good too, but Supernatural is where I would think I would want her to go, but I think that's like the least likely.
Yeah.
But that's what I would want though.
I don't know. It's because she is featured on the Supernatural is like Dawn FM.
Oh yeah.
You know, deluxe on a different album. You know what I mean? I think that but she's also collaborated with The Weeknd, right? So I think that might see more of it. If I would say that she's gonna drop a full 12-piece album of it, I doubt it. But I think you're right. She's in this weird zone of like, there's so many like loose ends that I feel like now it's kind of hard to like tie up each loose end.
It's like, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah, because Positions came out in 2020. So it's been 4 years since she's last
2021.
Sorry, 2021. Wasn't it? Was it 2021?
I thought it was 2021. That's what Spotify says.
Okay, it's 2021. Sorry, 2021. But it's been a while. Like that's a long time musically in the current age.
Oh, correction. The deluxe is in 2020.
All right.
There you go.
See, it was in 2020.
Also, Demar is right. We got to give him his credit. But compliment his hands, okay? Anyone watching this on YouTube, he just clipped his nails. Tell him how great his hands look, okay? If you're listening to the podcast, hop over to YouTube. Tell Demar how great his hands look.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I think that she's got to figure out where she wants to go. And I think that it kind of makes sense when you like go from a 4-year break on the music that you're making to now like, okay, what exactly or who exactly am I trying to be? It's going to be tough. But I'll say this, that she she's definitely still got like a big penchant for the hooks. Like the hooks are always phenomenal. Like pretty much
Yes.
everything that we mentioned
Mhm.
was hook based, right? Like the bye bye thing was hook based, and then the lyrics we're talking about is orbiting the hooks if it's not just the hook. And I think even on Eternal Sunshine, which is I want to say the standout. It's the standout lyrically. I don't want to say it's the best, but it's the standout because of this particular part where she's like, so now we play our separate scenes. Now she's in my bed, lying on your chest. Now I'm in your head, wondering how it ends. And that was the pre-chorus. Okay, here's the chorus. I'll be the first to say I'm sorry. First of all, it's gonna sound amazing when you hear it. I think that her vocals when she sings this is actually incredible.
Mhm.
I'm the first to say I'm sorry. Now you got me feeling sorry. I showed up all my demons, all my lies. I showed you all my demons, all my lies. Yet you played me like Atari. Then it's got like the pew 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 pew, sound effect in the background. Now it's like I'm looking in the mirror. I hope you feel all right when you're in her. I found a good boy and he's on my side. You're just my eternal sunshine. Sunshine. This section where she's like, hope you're feeling all right when you're in her. That was like, that took me aback. And I want to explain why. I want to break this down.
Okay, let's hear it.
There was a time where I was dating somebody who had an extremely high voice, right?
Okay.
And anytime that they swore, it was like almost like a shell shock because of how high pitched their voice was. That it kind of like it was jarring,
Okay.
right? And anytime they said something graphic, it was almost like, what the fuck is happening, right? And I feel like it's the same thing with Ariana Grande on this because she has like such a high,
I'm screaming.
she has a high heavenly voice, right? And then for her to say something as graphic as like, I hope you feel all right when you're in her is kind of crazy.
That's very thoughtful of her.
I don't even know how to respond to that. It's just like that sequence where she's saying something. It's not even super graphic. Like she's not even saying what exactly.
Yeah.
But we understand what she's talking about, and like that graphicness combined with the voice, like the high pitched voice, makes it jarring, makes it stand out. Like this is like one of the lines that everybody talks about, and I feel like that's the reason why. And I'm like, this reminds me of this person that I dated once that swore like they didn't swear, they weren't like swearing like a sailor, but it was enough where it was like this sounds weird. It sounds weird coming from somebody with a high pitched voice like yours. So I'm like, this is it's the same phenomenon that's happening right here.
I think that's part of her appeal. And if you go back to Thank You Next,
Yeah,
like that was the project where lyric Sweetener a little bit too, but Thank You Next is the project lyrically where it was like we're in a different place now. Like she's an adult, And I think that's part of it is like when she says graphic shit because she's had some crazy lines over her career. But when she says it in her angelic soft voice, it doesn't sound like it's Sexy Red saying it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I think for the listener that's a big part of it. It's a big part of it where these graphic lyrics you can sing them yourself and it just doesn't feel as graphic as it would otherwise. I want to say something about what you said about her sound and where she's deciding to go.
Yeah,
I feel like she's definitely more trying to stay in this like whatever is the pop sound, the top pop sound. Now she's worked with Max Martin a bunch of times, but he is all over this project, and I think that right now it seems like they're doing the recipe that they had a little bit before, but it's way more the experimentation of. We know what works in pop. We know what actually becomes a hit. Let's try and implement that into every different type of sound. And I kind of see her doing this again, if I'm being honest. Like I foresee the next project having the same, 6 different copycat sounds. And maybe it'll be a better single than this time because I think, we said it already, chose the wrong single.
yeah.
But I do foresee it being like kind of a mishmash of sounds all over again.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I could see that happening too, but the previous Like, I'm just thinking about the Positions. Positions had like a cohesive sound. Like, I remember we talked about it. I'm like, that was one of the benefits of Positions, was like it sounded like she had a direction.
Positions was it's funny because I why I brought up Max Martin is like, it's not like she hasn't worked with him before.
Yeah.
You know, she's worked with him before and they've created hits before.
Yeah.
But I think Positions was the like step to the left of that. Because it was definitely the most like hip hop, you know,
Yeah, it was the most hip hop
her album's ever been. So yeah. We already talked about how cohesive this album is not. So let's talk about what this means for her career.
Okay.
This is her 7th album.
Wow, deep in the catalog.
Yeah, no, she's a legacy act at this point.
That's so crazy.
Crazy to say. But she honestly is like one of the most streamed artists of all time. Some of the biggest albums of all time. To me, this album is a dud in her catalog.
Really?
Yeah, this album's a dud in her catalog to me. But I don't know if everyone is looking at it like that. So I don't know how that will be something that affects her career going forward, because I think that her fans are still tapped in. All the things that we said we liked about this project are almost, we probably named every kind of Easter egg for the fans.
Yeah.
Whether it's her voice or her writing style or, you know, her being secretly graphic. Like, those are the things that her fans love, and those things are still on this project.
Right.
And so I think that her fans will stay with her, but I feel like the casual, she definitely lost.
I agree.
A full step for the casual, because I think that, you know, I said something with the Harry Styles review as well. When you're of a certain level, sometimes how your album is viewed is based on the singles alone. Whether it sells or not, everyone remember, do I know a single from that album? And yes, and it's doing well, almost 300 million streams. I know that it's doing well, but not the same reach. There are a lot of people who don't know Yes and to this day are not rocking with it. So for me, I think to her fans, she's still rocking, but I think to the casuals, she took a step down.
Yeah, I agree because I think that she is a pop artist, and you know the best. You know, when you're a pop artist, you gotta drop the like your objective is to drop the hit single.
Yep.
Right. I don't think she's not like a critical darling in like a Carly Rae Jepsen sense, where it's like, oh yeah, it's pop music, but it's supremely crafted pop music.
Yes.
Hers is just like we said, very high level of competency, and then there's times where she can like make a song explode. Yes. Right. And she again has incredible, probably it's like some of the best vocals in the business.
Yes.
Like, so I think that for the casual, this probably is gonna become like a black hole for a casual
fans.
Yeah, for a casual fan. I think for, I would say, music fans, right? They're like, oh, this is. I would say that they're gonna consider this. It was solid.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I think her fans are gonna be like, this is awesome. There's so many like good, you know, tidbits. It's not like there's no like number one, but there's like a lot of good action happen here. I do think the songwriting is getting stronger. So I think for grand scale Ariana Grande, this is almost like not gonna exist.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
I think for music area, like music people, they're gonna be like, yeah, that was pretty solid. You know, there's
okay.
Yeah, there's like good things happening on that. Right. So I think that I agree, like with what you said, where it's like at a certain point you're gonna be judged by your singles, but I think that's for the general populace.
Yes.
For people like us, or people, I don't even want to say like us, because like we're
we're a different level.
We're a different level. But people who are music fans,
yes,
right? They're still gonna pay attention to your album, right? She's super popular, so she's not dying for attention. And people are still gonna listen to it and be like, oh yeah, it was pretty solid. It's gonna be like, you know, in the people like have the conversations about Ariana Grande. They'll be like, it was pretty good.
I think this is gonna hurt her ultimately, because the one place where Ariana Grande has suffered, which, let me say, I don't agree with these people. These people, there are a lot of them, but I don't agree with them, is that when you bring her up as one of the best singers or vocalists of this generation, she gets some pushback, which I think is absolutely ludicrous, but it's because of the kind of music she makes. She doesn't have as many of those, you know, amazing ballads or, you know, super emotional songs. I think God Is a Woman was kind of the one that was like, okay, this is her version of that. But she doesn't make that kind of music. And I think that this album is another example of that, where I think people who are they really like the vocalist, they want them to do a certain thing. They want her to make a different type of music, and she's still not doing that. And with this album, I think kind of going a little bit under the radar compared to the last projects, that's gonna hurt her a little bit as well. But she'll be fine.
Yeah, she's gonna be okay. Ariana Grande, she's gonna be all right. She's definitely high profile enough. She's high profile enough that we didn't even really notice that she was gone for 4 years.
Yeah. No, she's still, and that's the thing that I think is so funny about someone like Ariana Grande is that her fame is almost permanent at this point. You know, it's like
she has a distinct look too, because of her small stature. Her small stature, like the long hair, the high pony is back.
The
high pony is back.
The high ponies are signature. It's funny. I was looking at it, and this is perfect segue to talk about the album art. Her high pony is basically on every album, and think about all the albums we've reviewed where some of the artists aren't even on every album.
Yeah,
you know, we did Schoolboy Q last week, where the one album where it's mostly his visage is he's covered.
Yeah,
you know, this is almost the opposite, where the high pony is prevalent on every single album cover. And there's a couple of variations, like I think on Sweetener, it's more of a low pony than a high pony. And then on Positions, it's like, you know, not as much the traditional high pony, but basically every project, you're seeing some version of it where you know who this is. And then on here, you got the double.
I know, there's two people.
Yeah, so I like this cover.
Me too.
I like this cover a lot. I don't know who the second person is. I don't know what that's about, but I like this cover.
Yeah, me too. I like the colors a lot. I like that it's dreamy. It's dreamy in a sense where like you look at it, it's almost like you're asleep. I like the blonde hair. It's like just like gold.
Clip that.
Yeah. I like the blonde hair. Oh, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
That's so funny.
I'm not even gonna entertain that.
Don't even. Move on.
I think that even she also like has a ton of tattoos. I think that's not really like something that like if you know of Ariana Grande, that's not the first thing that's brought to your mind. But I think that even the tattoo in the back of the neck is a nice touch. It's also like a personalization of the album, right? So I think that it's nice, man. I think it looks great. I think that it would look great like on, you know, we talk about this with every album. It's like if you're gonna put it on display, like it definitely has like a definitive look. You could definitely tell that it's her. I don't know. So it looks solid. It's solid.
This is my favorite cover from her, I think. And I think being able to tell that it's her when she's not like facing the camera is what makes this album cover cool to me. It's like she's, you know, solidified the high pony as her look enough. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
Her look enough where it's like, because she's not facing the camera, and we're really assuming it's her, and that could be anybody. And it's like we're just like high pony, you know, cash it in, it's her.
Yeah.
So the fact that, you know, and I to me that is kind of the best thing an artist can do is solidify, like, you know, Olivia Rodrigo with The Color Purple, but solidify something that it's like, okay, when you see this, you think of me, almost in a way that we didn't realize, you know. And this is it because we did that whole section assuming it's her. We ain't got no idea,
that's
you know.
True.
And we just see the high pony, and we're like, yep, that's what it is. So I think, you know, they ate with that one because that's exactly what you want people to think when you see that. The vinyl.
I think it's a no for me. Unfortunately, I think it's a no for me. I like we talk about the vinyl. It's almost like it's a little preview. It's like
it's a little teaser.
Yeah, I think the vinyl is a no for me. I think that I think it is vinyl for. I think it would be vinyl for some people though.
Well,
yeah, I think some people are going to be coughing the vinyl, but personally, it's a no. What about you?
For me, it's a no. It's a no.
Yeah,
it's a no. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
not vinyl worthy. I think there are Ariana Grande albums that are vinyl worthy though.
Yeah,
I think
we were talking about Positions was like a borderline one for us.
Yeah,
like Thank You Next. I think Thank You. Thank You Next is definitely one of them.
I think for personal reasons, I probably just can't get Thank You Next, but definitely vinyl worthy. And then anyone who's collecting vinyls in Toronto, you guys know where to go. Play the Record for all your vinyl needs. Yup, we got the Sweetener right here. That's on Spadina, so please go and get your vinyl at Play the Record. So we know you're not getting the vinyl. I'm assuming you're saying it's not in no skips.
No, it's not. No skips.
Okay, we're doing some skipping. Where you at with a score?
I think Eternal Sunshine
Yeah.
by Ariana Grande is a 7 out of 10 flat.
Wow.
This is like the flattest 7 out of 10 I can give an album where I'm like, it just crawled over the line. I think that the production, I'm enjoying the production. Even though I understand that it's type beatish, right? I think that the production is still well done. This production is still well done. There are some flubs, like I mentioned, where it sounds legit like a gym track, like we're in the Zumba class. We're in the Taibo class. You know, we're in the Pilates class. And I think that there's still songs that, there's still songs where I'm like, oh, you know what? This is still pretty solid. You know, I think that, Supernatural is good. I think that, I Wish I Hated You. I Wish I Hated You. But I think that the songwriting is getting stronger. I think it was like worse in previous years. But I think a song like I Wish I Hated You or Imperfect for You, those did not really exist in the past. I think that even I Don't Want to Break Up Again, like that, personality duality is also something that she didn't really toy with, because on Positions it was very much sex. It was very sexy on Positions.
Yes.
Right? And it wasn't very contemplative. And I feel like this is much more contemplative about just like relationships, sex, anything overall. So I think that it's better songwriting wise, but I do think that we'd even talk about the interlude. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So there are some good and there's some bad. I think that Imperfect for You, production wise, is the worst song. But it's the best songwriting song. So, so it's a 7. It just got over the line. It was very, very close to being a 6.5 for me. Right? But I think it's barely a 7. Barely.
Wow. We're in two different places.
Okay.
For me, Eternal Sunshine, Ariana Grande, it's a 5.
Okay.
This album is just very mid to me.
Okay.
And even though there's good parts about this album, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't hate any of these songs. This album can just play basically all the way through, but it's so inoffensive, so mild. And I think that to me, what this album is for is someone who's not a music fan. Like, if you're not a music fan and, you didn't hear by and think of Silk Sonic immediately, and you're like, oh my, this is so groovy.
Yeah, this is so groovy.
That's who this is for. This is for that person. I think my taste is probably just too diverse for this project.
Oh my God. This guy taking the subtle strays just shot out my window. This guy is like, it's like, my palette is too diverse. It's too cultured. But I sit literally across the table from this dude, and I'm like, oh yeah,
that wasn't for you. But if you want to take the shot, you can have it. That was for everybody. That was for everybody.
Oh man,
because I think that there's some of these songs where it's cool what she's doing, but it's like, why am I going to listen to this version of this?
But the vocals, though.
But I don't think that all this pressure complements her vocals. Like I said this before, I think vocally where she is the best is not on something fast paced and not on something that's super like bass heavy where, it's a whole contrast between her vocals and the bass. So yeah, to me, this is a 5. I can't go lower than a 5. I want to give it a 5.5, but the more I listen to this album is the more I'm like, this song is cool. But when I hear it, I want to go listen to a whole different song.
Yeah. And
I don't know that everyone's going to have that experience. Again, someone might hear it by and be like, oh my goodness, this is so musical. But I think that there's this no way that you can hear, like, this is go by. You hear by, if you heard the Silk Sonic album, you're like, okay, there's 8 better over here. So that's basically this whole entire project to me. So it's a 5.
Okay. I think you talked me down. I think you talked me back down to my original score. I think
6.5.
Yeah, I think I'm giving it a 6.5.
Yeah, I
vocals though.
I know vocally she's still amazing, but I think that this album is decent in spite of everything else because of her vocals. And I almost kind of cringe a little bit because you were this close to giving Blue Lips and Eternal Sunshine the same score. And that
well, you know what? I think I'm more. I don't know. I think they're around the same in my eyes.
Wow.
they're around the same.
That's so interesting. Yeah, there's just so few songs on here that I'm like, would I love to listen to this?
Oh, okay.
And I think it's unfair to me for who I'm comparing her to, but I think that, you know, some of the other artists that she's in the ilk of, whether it's on the R&B pop side or just on the pop side, you know, when Billie Eilish first came out, she had songs where you're like, you know, Ariana Grande would sound amazing doing this,
Right.
but Billie Eilish is the one doing it, so I'm gonna hear Billie Eilish do it. Or some of these songs where it's like, you know what, I want to hear her and Jasmine Sullivan sing this instead of you singing. And we're kind of even in a worse path than that because she wasn't having that, you know, mood on Positions. Positions, we were talking nasty.
Yeah. Wait, she was talking nasty.
Well, the pod was just talking nasty from, you know, just talking about her. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. And 5 is average, okay, everyone?
Yeah.
5 is an average score. You can pass with a 5. You don't need to take summer school, but you should.
Yeah.
But a 5 is a pass. You can go on to the next level. So I'm very excited to see what the people think. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, you know what to do. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. All the Ariana Grande fans, I want to hear what you guys think. Okay, are you closer to a 5, closer to a 7, closer to a 9?
That'd be insane. There's no way.
There's
no way.
When there's a will, there's a way. So I want to see where you guys are at. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Of course, share this with your friends. Like this video. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok. And of course, until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.